Hi there, my name is Alan Cullen and I'm a member of the Texas Mutual cycling team, and today I'd like to show you how to fix a flat tire. I'll obviously go through various steps in the next few minutes, but two things I really would like you to take away and to think about when you're fixing a tire. First of all, it needs to be a safe place that you're going to fix it. Very often you'll get a flat out while you're cycling, and if you're close to a curve in the road, if you're close to a hill, you got to make certain the cars on both sides coming at you can see you before you find a location to fix your tire. So make certain you're off the road and that you're very visible to any cars coming while you fix the flat. The other thing I'd like you to remember is it's important to figure out why you had a flat, because if you don't, there's a chance that you will fix the tire, start riding again, and a few minutes later have another flat, because whatever caused the flat is still inside your tire. And so, obviously it could be something very obvious like a nail or a little bit of wire, although no one likes a flat. If you get those ones, they're very easy to find. You see what it is, you get rid of it, and then you go fix the flat. But there could be other things like a pinch flat, or maybe a piece of glass or something has worked its way into the tire, which can be a little bit more difficult to find. So we'll talk about that in just a moment, but two things that I really want you to remember. Wherever you are finding yourself to fix that flat, make certain it's safe and visible, and try really hard to figure out what caused the flat so that you don't cause another puncture a couple of minutes later. So a couple of things you will need, and so ideally anytime you're out cycling you should have these things with you. First of all, a spare tube. And so obviously find out what kind of tube you have on your bike and then carry a spare. On longer rides, I often carry two, or if I'm on a group ride, I would also carry two. You might get a flat, someone else on the group might have a flat. If you're able to fit it on your bike, try and carry two with you. You'll also need some type of mechanism for pumping up the tire once you fix the flat. So you can get very neat pumps which will connect to your bike so they're out of the way and you just have them all the time. You'll also hear of CO2 cartridges. You can buy little cartridges that will connect to the tire and you can pump up using those. I prefer the pump, and so it's always reliable. You always have it. Again, if several people get a flat and you've used up your little CO2 cartridge, you could run out. If you have a pump, if you always have a pump, you'll always have it, always ready to go. And then last but not least, some type of levers to help you remove the tire from your wheel. And so I've got a set here, kind of very easy to use. They're small, they clip together, so they're kind of neat. I carry the tube and these levers in a little pouch at the back of my saddle, so they're always there. Don't even have to think about it each time I go for a ride. I'll always have them. And then the pump attaches nicely to the frame, so it's kind of out of the way. Okay, so I have my bike here. I've realized I have a flat, I've turned it over, I've found a safe place to fix it. Obviously I'm in my garage right now, so that makes it kind of easy. I've let the air out, so I'm simulating a flat, and now we're going to remove the tube. Again, kind of things I would be aware of prior to getting to the point where you need to fix a flat tire. Make certain you know how to remove your wheels. There's many mechanisms to let you do that. This particular bike has a little lever that you can release, and it opens up the little axle that's holding it on and lets me just pop the bike out. And likewise, when it's done, I'll put it back in and close it, and it'll lock it in. There are some hubs that use kind of a hex key of some sort, and so again, if your bike is one of those, A, know that that's what it is before you go out on your ride, and B, if it does use some type of special device to remove the tire, make certain you're carrying that with you as well. Another little hint I'd certainly like you to consider is we very often ride out in the mornings, and what I do is before I go to bed, I always check that I don't have a flat, so that I'm not waking up and about to head out in the morning and suddenly realize that you've got a flat that you've got to try and fix. So any kind of pre-work you're able to do to make certain that you don't have an issue before you start helps you out. Okay, so I've got my tire here, and what I'm going to do is take out the tube. I've got a little kind of holder ring in here that's holding the kind of tube valve in. I'm just going to remove that out of the way. And also before I start removing it, I am going to quickly look around the outside of the tire, see if I can figure out what caused the flat. And so if you see it, then of course obviously you're pretty good to go. You already know what's caused it. If you don't see it, then obviously it could be something that popped into the tire and has popped out before you had a chance to get to the tire. Or as I mentioned, it could be something that's embedded inside the tire itself. Okay, so we have the tube. I have my little levers, and so what I'm going to do is now lift the tire off the rim so that I can get to the tube underneath. A couple of things here. What I'm going to do is insert the little lever under the rim and catch it to help me lift the tube out. Just like that. I don't know if you can see that there. You may find, and so it depends on the kind of rim that you have, that is incredibly difficult to get to. If that's true, what's happening is that there's an inner rim inside this rim that the edge of the tire is sitting on, and what it's giving you is it's giving you no leverage to try and pull it across. So if that is happening, do what I just tried here, but what you may need to do is push the tire on the bottom, on the opposite side as to where your lever is, so that you've moved it away from that rim, giving the circumference more access for you to move the tube at this end. Sometimes you may be lucky that a single lever allows you work your way through, and in this case it did. So I'm just going to slowly work my way around here until I get the entire tire free of the frame. Okay, there we go. So now what I'm going to do is, inside here is my tube. And I'm going to move that a little out of the way so I can pop the tube out. So I'm going to take the tube out. And then, as I said, I now need to know what caused the flat. You may have been lucky and you found something on the outside, so you feel really comfortable that you have it covered. If you didn't, now what you want to do is look and also run your fingers on the inside of the tire so you can figure out what caused the flat itself. So you often want to find a point on the wheel to use as reference, so you're not going round and round and round trying to figure out if you've gone the whole way. So of course I've got where the valve was, the hole where the valve was, so I'm going to start here and then work my way around, and once I get back to the hole, then I know I've gone the whole way through. So I'm visually going to start by looking at it, and so go the whole way around. And of course might be unlucky and not see something obvious, so the next would be run my fingers through it and see if I can feel something that might have caused it. And so slowly working my way around. Ultimately until I get the whole way around. Okay, let's say, imagine at this point I still haven't figured out what caused it. You do have one more tool in your little pocket that can help you, and that is the tube that has the flat. You can blow the tube up, and of course you should start hearing some hissing as to wherever the flat was caused. And so if that happens, and you can figure out, ooh, it happened, in this example I'm going to say, imagine it happened right here. Well, now I know if I line up the valve with the spot on the wheel that the flat occurred, if I can kind of hold the wheel up so you can see it. So I've got the valve held where the valve hole is, and I figured out where the puncture was. I now know the flat is either in this area here or similar on the opposite side, that area there. And so that gives me an additional way to look as to where I think that potential flat might be. Okay, so hopefully you've figured out what caused the flat and you've removed it. If there's a little bit of glass inside the tire, if it's a little bit of wire or a nail, you've removed those. The other kind of flat I did mention was a pinch flat, and that can happen when you hit a bump or a kind of a sharp piece of curb in the road, and what happens is the tube is pinched inside the wheel, inside the tire, and loses air. If you get those, then obviously nothing on the tire caused it. It was just you were unlucky. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is put my punctured tube to one side. Obviously, do not throw these away. You want to make certain you dispose of them properly. So I'm going to move that out of the way, and I'm going to grab my new tube. So I'm going to take it out. This has kind of a cap and a little ring on it, so I need to take those out of the way so I can put the valve back through the hole in the tire. There's a couple of different thoughts on how you do this. You could start trying to slot this in right now, but as you'll notice, the tube itself is quite floppy. And you know, you're putting it on one side and you start moving around, it starts coming back out. So what you can do is put a little bit of air in the tube. So you can either use your pump or, you know, ideally this is a clean tube that I just unwrapped, so I can blow on it. And what that's done is it's put a little bit of air into the tube, giving it a little bit of form. So now I can start trying to put it back onto my wheel. So again, I'm going to start with the spot where the valve hole is. It's right there. I'm going to move a little closer here so you can see it. And so I'm going to put the valve in through the hole. Move the tire over it. And now carefully push the tube, again, move back so you can see, into the tire. And you'll start to see why, you know, putting that little bit of air in it has allowed it to keep its form. It's not popping back out on me. It's staying nicely on the tube. Okay, all in. And so now what I'm going to start doing is I should be able to just use my fingers to pull the rim of the tire over the edge of the wheel. And so I'm going to continue doing that around. Initially, of course, it's going to be quite easy. And once you get close to the end, it's going to become a little tougher. So I'm making certain the tube is neatly in there, pull the tire over. Tube is in, pull it over. So I think you get the idea of what I'm doing. Push the tube in, pull it over, in, over, and keep doing that as I work my way around. Okay, so we are getting pretty close to the end here. And so this is where it can start to get a little difficult, because obviously the circumference of the tire is a little smaller than the circumference of the wheel, which is what keeps the tire on. So if you're not able to pull it anymore, then you can go back to your levers. Of course, what you're being very careful of here is that you don't pinch the new tube that you just put inside your tire. You should be able to grab the edge of the rim. I'm going to try and move back here so you can keep it in the camera. Yep, there we go. And I should be able to just move it over. And there we go. It's back on. My lever away. Okay, let's go the whole way around to make certain it is on properly. Yes, it is. And now I'm going to inflate it. Okay, so as I mentioned at the beginning, I have a pump that I like. And so I'm going to carry that. As I mentioned, I like the pump just because I find it's reliable. Put that together. Attach it to my new tube. And start to inflate it. Actually, it would probably be pretty wise for me to put it back on the bike at this point before I go too far. So I will. I'm going to put it back on the bike. One thing I didn't talk about when you were taking the wheel off the bike, the brake pads can have a tendency to hold the wheel on. and potentially with an inflated tube, it won't let you pass the brakes. Most of the brakes pads have a little dial on them that let them kind of temporarily open, so it's easier to get your tube out. So kind of keep an eye on that. Again, that's also why I wanted to put the wheel back on before I pumped it, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to get it past the brakes. So have it back on. I'm closing the little mechanism that holds the wheel on there, and now I can go ahead and repump the tire. So here we go. Pump it back up. Now, any technique you use out on the road to pump your wheel is more than likely not going to have any kind of gauge to tell you how much air you have in there. And so that's always kind of a little interesting. You want to pretty much get it to a point where you can't pinch it anymore, and then that should get you back up and going on the road. But when you do get an opportunity to inflate it to a proper pressure, I would recommend you go and do that. So maybe there's a rest stop you can go to, and maybe it's not till you get back and you're done with your ride. But there you go. The flat is repaired. A few things, of course. Make certain that you don't leave anything behind. Chances are you turned your bike upside down to fix it. You might have taken your bike computer off. Obviously, you've got the tube that you no longer need. You've got your levers. Make certain you grab everything together. Carry your trash. Don't leave anything behind. Check you're good to go. When you have fully pumped your tire, make certain it spins okay, that it's not catching on your brakes. And then you should be good to go. There you go. Thank you very much. Hope this has been beneficial. Take care.